Tonight, in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television, one UB student sentenced to 18 months in prison and 12 others declared innocent and acquitted. And also in this newscast, presidents of the national football clubs in Cameroon are threatening to halt Elite 1 and 2 competitions until General Pierre Semenge steps down. Good evening to you once again, viewers. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. We begin right away with the news on some of the detained students of the University of Buea. The Buea Court of First Instance today handed down the verdict of some 15 UB students that were incarcerated at the Buea Central Prison for over 2 months. The sentences of 3 out of some 4 convicted students were suspended, and the students were demanded to pay the fine of 140,000 francs CFA each, and one of them, named Sigala Remy, was sentenced to 1 year, 6 months of imprisonment with an over 50 million fine awarded against him by the Buea Court of First Instance. He was found guilty for assault and also destruction of property on the campus of the University of Buea. 12 students were also discharged and acquitted. The hearing in the case of the remaining 12 students would resumed. That is next week at the Buea Court of First Instance in the southwest region of Cameroon. And the case of some students of the University of Buea is coming at a time when the governor of the said region distanced himself or the administration from all the affairs that has been happening on the campus of the University of Buea. He said that the administration cannot meddle on issues happening on the campus of the university, and he also seized the opportunity to announce the close down of illegal churches in the southwest region of the country. It is in the sidelines of the governor's meeting that ends today in Yaoundé Central region of the country. Roland Akong tells us more.
We approached the governor of the southwest region to get his take on the detention of some students of the University of Buea.
It is not the governor, the administrative authority who are detaining the student. It is the authority of the University of Buea who complain about what was done by some students within the campus. We don't intervene unless the Vice-Chancellor requests us to intervene. That is the situation. So if you want to know about what is going on in the University of Buea campus, you must go to the Vice-Chancellor and his administration.
As a patron of renseignement in the region, what do you know about the problem?
I would politely beg you to avoid that problem, because it is a matter of discipline in a campus, and the local authority are not intervening unless there is a requisition. And if there is a requisition, we just put the forces of law and order at the disposal of the Vice-Chancellor.
Another public worry we took to the governor of the southwest region is a proliferation of churches in his region.
It's a problem, and we have instructed the local authority, the SGO and the GO, to close the churches that are not authorized to exist legally.
A recent release by the Minister of Territorial Administration states only 47 churches have authorization to function in Cameroon. But on the ground, there are hundreds of churches, and their activities are considered by some critics as a nuisance to the public.
But they are disturbing the population. They are disturbing the population. You know what happened in Bamenda. And many other localities are facing the same consequences.
Meantime, the annual conference of 10 regional governors in the country, which wraps up today in the Yaoundé Central region of the country, focused on peace and security in the various regions, especially during the elections of councillors and parliamentarians that is bid for the 30th of September 2013. The heads of Cameroon's 10 regions that would have a greater role in guaranteeing a free, fair and transparent elections in the country. Let's listen to the level of preparedness of the governors of Adamawa and also that of the southwest region of Cameroon.
The southwest region is preparing to handle the June election in peace and calm. There is no major problem. We have till date, as usual, accompany the organ in charge of organizing the election, Elekan. Everything is quite okay, so we don't have particular problems in the southwest.
I think that we have to maintain this peace, the calmness in the region, because the election should be organized in a fair atmosphere. So we have to, we have this phenomenon of coupure de route, which from time to time is becoming a preoccupation. And to secure the process of election, we have to be sure that everything will be going very smoothly. So on the terrain, that is something which is very, very important and very interesting for us.
The governors of the Adamawa and that of the southwest region, they're speaking to Yaoundé-based correspondent Roland Akong. Now, some parents in the economic capital Douala are complaining of economic hardship as the summer holidays has come along with many mouths to feed. Household expenditure, they say, has increased as a result. For Hansin Chanji tells us more in the following report.
While the holiday season started off with excitement, with parents happy to spend some time with their children at home and holidaymakers trooping in, family expenditure during this period has increased. Some parents say this moment expenditure is higher than during school days. Each day, Margaret Banek, mother of many children, has to look for food for members of the family. She says it takes money and time to put food on the table. Before holidays, I used to spend 2,000 to 2,500 francs for 2 days to cook food. But now, 3,000 francs isn't enough for 1 day. Susan Mananga's situation may even be worse. At times we eat without sauce. When you prepare food with sauce, its complement needs to be much. That is why I cook without sauce. These holiday things like meat, chicken, we don't eat it except on festive days. On her part, Nadine is aware that the holiday requires much expenditure. She seems to be ready. On this holiday, I do some business outside. I cook something like rice and even 5 puff-puff. Most of the children in these homes are not aware of the difficulties their parents go through. All they want is food on the table, no matter the means.
Les enfants ne comprennent pas que papa, maman n'ont pas d'argent. Ils ont besoin de...
Children do not understand that parents don't have money. They want to eat. Before we were 4, now we are 9. After the arrival of 5 persons during this holiday, things have changed. We need to take breakfast, lunch.
Avec le petit déjeuner, le repas de midi et le repas du soir.
Most homes in the city of Douala go through these on every holiday period. What is most painful is preparing for the holiday makers to return to their various homes.
Meantime, Mali's presidential elections is in 3 days. Time for us to take a look at some of the principal activities of those that are resident here in the economic capital, Douala. Malians residents here in the city of Douala have said port manufacturing and selling remains a profitable venture. A majority of them are said to be engaged in the activity, which to many is fast becoming a profession. For Hansen Chanji visited some port production factories here in the economic capital, Douala, and tells us more once again.
The Malian community in Douala are engaged in diverse walks of life. If it is
a sincere apologies, we shall be coming back to that report in our subsequent newscast. We take on right away we come back to the report for Hansen Chanji, who took keen interest on the principal activities of Malian residents here in the economic capital, Douala. That report is coming barely few days to the elections, or the presidential elections that is built for Sunday in Mali. Let's listen to for Hansen Chanji.
The Malian community in Douala are engaged in diverse walks of life. If it isn't the washing of clothes, shoe mending, it will be the manufacturing of cooking pots. In fact, their main activity is using waste aluminium to manufacture cooking pots. These Malians all work in a synergy. The process to manufacture a cooking pot begins with the purchase of aluminium. Here, Abdoulaye is in charge. He buys a kilogram of aluminium for 400 francs CFE and sells them to the pot manufacturers for 500 francs. The aluminium is then taken to the factory, where it is being put on fire to separate the dirt from the liquid. After several hours of rigorous stirring, the chaffs are removed and the liquid is now ready for pot production. Going to the production house, various shapes are produced using earth according to the number of sizes of the pots required. The liquid is poured in these holes, and after a few minutes, the pot is ready. According to these Malians, a total of 150 kilograms of aluminium could produce each large pot. The liquid is poured in these holes, and after a few minutes, the pot is ready. In cases where the pots need to be shaped, there are specialists for that. When the pots are ready, they are now taken to the shops for sale. This boy explains that the business is lucrative and most Malians are engaged in it. It acts as a source of their livelihood. Malians in Douala are engaged in many activities. Some of them are cooking pot manufacturers. They engage in these activities in order to better their lives while living in Cameroon. It is home, away from home, as some of them say. For Hansen Chanji, Equinox Television.
Thanks indeed for Hansen Chanji for that report, taking a keen look at the activities or the principal activity of Malians residents here in the economic capital, Douala, in the week of Mali's presidential elections billed for Sunday this week. That does it for this segment of the news. Up next is Talking Point. Good evening to you, Barrister Atanga Charles, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Mimi, and good evening to our viewers.
Our guest tonight will be telling us about the recent announcement by the Director General of Elections Cameroon, that is Elecam, who made an outing announcing that Cameroonians could go to the polls during the elections of municipal councillors in the country with their ID cards, and it is coming at a time when the board chair of Elections Cameroon made also announcing that Elecam is 40% gone with the distribution exercise of the biometric registration cards. I guess tonight will be telling us the legal implications and also the impact that it may have on the upcoming elections in the country. Barrister, just to find out from you, what is the need for such an announcement? And it is coming at a time when Elecam is struggling to see how to distribute voters' cards to potential voters when to register.
Yes, you know, the voters' card is very, very important. The Director General of Elecam did not say it was less important. I think his order or directives organizing the polling station and polling operation on election day just comes to clarify what the law already says. He did not invent anything new. He just went into the electoral code and I would say highlighted or emphasized provisions regarding the actual polling or the actual voting. And I would like to be very clear, because the way your question sounded, it would appear you think the Director General of Elecam says Cambodians can vote with their ID cards. Don't forget that you must be registered on the electoral list. You must have registered to vote. So the directives of the General Manager or the Director General of Elecam, there are some kind of exceptional provisions in the event where you find yourself at the polling station without your voter's card and your name being on the electoral list. Don't forget that you must have registered. If not, the provisions of the electoral code, which says that registration goes from the 1st of January to the 31st of August, or until when the electorate is convened, will be made nonsense. So you must have registered. And like you know, there are many reasons which can make a voter find himself on election day without his voter's card, meanwhile he had registered.
So basically, what are there no implications involved? Because so many political analysts are, maybe they are suspecting that, or they are saying that it is likely to encourage fraud and irregularities. Could that not be true?
Well, I see the directives as facilitating elections itself, or voting. You know, registration, collection of voters' card, if at the end of the day you don't vote, you would have done all that for nothing. And it may happen, like I was saying a while ago, that you may find yourself at the polling station without your voter's card, meanwhile you are registered. You know, most of us who've collected our cards, we keep them probably in our wallets. And every day we have petty thefts where wallets are stolen. You don't expect Elecam to produce another card for you now before the 20th of September, for example. But if you have proof that you are on this list, you know your polling station, especially as most receipts even carry. When you register, your receipt carries your probable polling station or the area. And like we heard, we hope it will be true that you could go in the days ahead, you could cross-check your registration online. So if you know your polling station, and it may also happen, you know, all these cards are kept in Elecam offices. Elecam may be transporting them, and the law also says that you can come on the same day, collect your voter's card in the polling station and vote. So Elecam may be transporting these cards and something happens. Will Cambodians not vote? So the essential thing is, first, it is encouraged to go and collect your card. That is fine. That is a good civic act. It is encouraged to go and vote. But in the event where your card is not there, you know what is very important is the identification. And in the directives I heard and I read, that you must be identified.
Therefore, okay.
So to me, there is little or no risk, especially as there must be identification.
Why is there little risk at all?
Yes, because
little risks, how?
If you had registered, they register before the local polling commission shows your name, your ID number, the names of your parents, as this data was collected when you registered, and it shows the polling station, and you have your receipt, for example, for those who might not have collected their cards before the polling day. You come with your receipt to prove the name. You know, the law says that this list must be pasted both in and out. There's a copy before the commission on the table, and then a copy pasted at the entrance. So if you come and verify, and you are sure that you are to vote there, and you can identify yourself with your national identification card, that is what it means. It does not mean that you can just come with your identity card that day, and then you vote without your name being on the electoral register.
So just to find out, because so many questions are being raised, especially political analysts in the country, they are questioning, like I earlier indicated, the need now when so many voters' cards are still lying in Elecam offices across the country. So could we say that it is somewhat an acceptance by the elections governing body of a failure somehow on their part?
No,
if they haven't succeeded so far
to
distribute up to 50% of the...
yes, but distribution needs those who those cards belong to come and take. It is true that Elecam has not yet gone out on in an intensive drive to have these cards distributed, like they did maybe during registration, where they went out to have people register. But you know that it's very delicate. It is easier to go out and ask people to come and register than to go out carrying these cards every day and then not meeting them.
How is it difficult? What's the difference?
For example, when you go out, I saw them with loud hailers, for example. They stand on the street corners, asking you to go and register there, be it at Feu Rouge or Ndokoti or all over. Just imagine them. The same people whom they caught at Feu Rouge or Ndokoti, all these places, if you come back with their cars there, you will likely not meet them. But they all have receipts indicating that go to the Elecam office of this council, you can get your card. So I think it is more of a civic responsibility which the citizens have failed to commit to perform, because we should have by now gone to collect our cards. It is true, Elecam will definitely come, and that is why the law gives the opportunity that on the day of elections itself, if you are sure of your polling station, you can come there, collect your card, and vote.
Of course, we also invited you, Barrister, within the context of the twin elections that are coming up as well in the country. Let us take a look back at the submission of documents by the various political parties. Legally, some of the files were rejected by some Elecam branches across the country and not the board members. Is it legally correct for
so far, on the one hand, some people say Elecam rejected their files. On the other hand, Elecam itself says they rejected no file. And they explained that those who had irregularities, for example, they asked them, okay, we'll take your files and we'll put the observation that it came in maybe at 6 a.m. on the 18th, or it came in at 3 a.m. on the 18th, or this document was lacking. So, no, as the law says, the Elecam is not supposed to reject at this level.
Whether it came late or before or after or
the law is very clear that they have to collect and then send to the electoral council, or the electoral council, which has the duty to examine and reject. So under normal circumstances, the Elecam offices were not supposed to reject, and this is what they are saying. It is left to be verified. And we know of cases where the Elecam offices asked that we'll put this observation and they refuse, and probably later on in the day, early in the morning, they had to close, and these people went about saying they have been rejected. So until they are properly investigated, we should take the information with a pinch of salt.
So actually we are not yet sure, and if at all it has been rejected, it is legally not correct. Like
well, the electoral council too, for example, if the files never got to them, you don't expect them to examine files that they never saw. Yes, because in most cases, some of these candidates or aspirants went back with their files. And we know of a bitter situation in the Kribi, for example, wherein it is the board member of Elecam who is said to have thrown out the files, which to me is regrettable, because they could as well have received and then let it know that they received it the following day at a particular hour and then send it to the electoral council. So I think...
and that is what happened in other regions across the country.
Yes, like I said, they need to be investigated, and the law will take its course.
So if that should be the case, what happens if the political party takes it upon him or himself, or a particular political party takes it upon itself to file in a petition? How does it happen?
Yes, you know, the law is very clear. If the time you were struggling to submit your documents, it was past midnight, that one too will also be against you. It isn't because you are trying to submit a document at 6 a.m. on the 18th and then they refuse that you now say, okay, Elecam refused. No. If you can prove that Elecam refused before 12 noon on the 17th of July, fine. But if it is after, I think that provision of the law will weigh more on you than the fact that the electoral office was not supposed to reject your documents. That is, if they rejected the documents.
And what happens between maybe the 1st of August to when the elections would finally take place before we go back?
Yeah, you know, after the publication, there might be litigation, there might be people contesting, those whose lists might have been rejected, or those who think that the opponent's list should have been rejected, because the law gives room for petitions on either side. If you reject my list, I can petition. If I believe that my opponent's list was wrongly accepted, I can petition. So all these petitions have to be trashed. You understand? Within the next 5 days, they must be submitted, be it to the administrative courts, the competent administrative courts, or to the Constitutional Council, which today is still the Supreme Court. After all this, the law also gives time limits for these courts to render their judgments on these petitions. And then, you know, before we now go on to campaign and all the like, the publication again, the printing of these ballot papers, and then election material. So you see that between now and the 30th of September, we have a full charge election 3 months.
Especially elections, Cameroon has a very busy schedule.
Yes, yes. Well, the law also simplifies their task. Like it says that for municipal elections, the council branch offices of ELECAM should examine and then send recommendations, which means that, or observations, which means that in areas where there are no particular observations, the list will just go through. They will sail through. So the observations, in my opinion, are observations made for the electoral board to judge. Yes.
Thanks indeed, Barrister Atanga Charles, for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Thank you too.
And just to note to our viewers that Elections Cameroon has up to the 1st of August to submit or publish the list of the various political parties to go in for the municipal and the legislative elections. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Good evening to you once again.